An equalizer is a tool. As with everything that we've discussed, it's so important to make sure that we have intention. What's up, everybody? Today I am taking you to the house of EQ. And first, let's look at what EQ is. EQ is volume, but for frequencies. And it can be over an entire mix, or it can be over one single sound source. I consider EQ the art of volume control, but for emotions. We get to sculpt space out of sound and decide what the listener gets to hear and what they never hear. So today we're going to discuss reasons to EQ, we're going to learn the basic parameters around EQ, and we're also going to discuss the difference between analog and digital EQs.
Just bring it, bitch!
So when we talk about equalizers, there are two components to the typology. So we can think of it like the steering wheel and the engine of what makes an equalizer. And the first is what we call the control type. And the control type is what controls the features of the EQ that we are allowed to manipulate. An EQ where we have full control over everything. We call those parametric, which means they are sweepable. We have the entire frequency range. Next would be what we call fixed band. Fixed band EQ gives you a certain number of touch points. So obviously the more bands, the more impact you have, the less bands, the way more strategic you're going to need to be. Now let's look at the second component to the typology, and that's our circuit type. So we have different types of EQ builds. And the first, passive EQ. It uses tubes and transistors in its build, which are going to add some weight. The second type of EQ is what we call an inductor-based EQ. The next type of EQ build that we have is what's called discrete. It's a very dense build by hand, and it's really what makes them have a unique sound. Next type of build, the op amp. And op amps can be split into two. We can have an op amp discrete or op amp integrated circuit. But you're saying, hey man, let's actually get to some EQing.
2,000 years later.
Let's step into the house of EQ. So starting with the ground that the home has to be built on, that is going to be 0 to 60 hertz. This area is going to have some subtle power, but it also could have rumble. It is typically felt rather than heard. Now we get to our next set of frequencies, which are our lows. And that's basically 60 up to about 150. In this area, we're going to consider this to be our foundation, the concrete foundation that the home is built on. This area can provide some strength. If we let it get too unruly, we can start creeping into what's considered mud. This zone pushes things back, and we're still in an area of things feeling more sustained rather than transient and punchy. So it's a good spot when we feel like things are over-ringing too much or we're not really hearing articulation, that we can start to look to see if there's anything boomy. But you have to be careful, because if you cut too much, you're going to thin out your instruments. They're going to lose punch and they're going to lose body. Now we're in the basement, low mids. For that area, we're looking at really 150 up to 400. And just like any kind of basement, it can be warm and inviting, or it can be filled with boxes. I'm super psyched that I just came up with that on the fly. One of the reasons why I try to encourage everybody not to just blindly label frequency pockets as good or bad. It's so dependent upon the source and mainly the density and fundamental frequencies of the information that it is that you're dealing with. Next, we get to our main floor. Through that front door, our eye catches everything. It is always the showstopper, our mids. Again, I'll always call it the money-making frequencies. It's the frequencies we hear best. It is the frequency area that has a lot of detail and articulation, and most instruments outside of our super subby stuff or super hissy stuff are going to have some content in this area. If you were looking to EQ a guitar and you felt that you had a lot of body, but you really weren't getting the definition or the transient kind of chucking of the strings, you'd want to start going into this particular area and drawing that out. From there, we go to the second floor, and that is our 2K up to 5, sometimes 6K, what we call presence. If you saw my previous video about thinking of EQ in terms of direction, this is what brings things forward. It's what steps things out in front of the speakers, making things feel very intelligible, very emotional in terms of being connected to it. It's an area that can add some presence and a little extra emotional articulation, but if pushed too hard, we can easily make things have too much bite. Our next range, which we would want to consider the roof of the house, are highs. With that, you hear people discuss shimmer. A lot of times we're looking in this area and we can find, a lot of magic. However, the opposite to that is things can start to feel a little more shrill. Hear how that S just like exploded out? Our fundamental question is really, what is the density of the instrument, and what is the relevance of that density to the mix that we are trying to construct, and how am I going to use EQ to help that? And our last frequency area is what we can kind of call the sky and the stars above our house. And that is anything above 12K. And sometimes that can be magic. We can call that, air. And it just feels like there's this nice, canopy over the top of the mix that's just letting things breathe. However, the polar opposite of that is we can just bring up a lot of unwanted noise, artifacts that aren't really meant to be in there and are now competing with intelligible components of our mix. There is air there that is valuable, and there is also noise. So when we're discussing our home analogy, we're going to think of our filters as the utilities around our house. We have a high-pass filter, which is basically letting the higher frequencies through and taking an examination and letting us determine how much low frequency we want through. So we can consider that our broom. It's there, and it's sweeping, and it's cleaning. The next filter that we have is what is called our low pass, which, oh man, shocking, EJ. Wow, look at this genius move. It's the same thing, except we are starting on the high end and we are bringing it down and determining how much high we want to cut. So you could think of that as your curtains, which helps you control the overall brightness of the top of either an instrument or your mix in general. Next, we have shelves, and this is a shelf. Now, the easiest way to think of your shelves, I like to think of it as dimmer switches. So when you think about dimming in a room, it's not a light switch where you walk in and you either go full on brightness or you go into total darkness. You can actually adjust the vibe. We can cut subtly, we can boost subtly, but with a shelf, as you can see, we are grabbing a whole frequency range. They can tend to feel a little bit more transparent because, as you can see, we slope down nice and smooth. Okay, then we get to our bell. And a bell is a spotlight. Now, I don't know why. Do many of you have spotlights in your home? I'm sure maybe you have like some cool artwork or awesome like record collection and there's some like ceiling spots like pointing down. But that's exactly what this is. We are shining a light on a particular frequency area. So that is your bell, and a super easy way to think about it. Now, I don't really use it that much, but if you were, there are notch EQs that you can go through and use. So think of that like an air purifier where you're finding something you do not like, you are eliminating it, and you are leaving everything else untouched. Next, we have the Q. And the way I want you to think of the Q is the lower the number, the broader the tool. The higher the number, the more surgical. So every home should have a toolbox. And in that toolbox, we should have a myriad of tools because, as everybody says, you need the right tool for the job. If we're going with lower Qs, think of that as like your paint roller. Higher Qs, those are your surgical tools, and they are used for the detail work. Now, I would absolutely absolutely suggest not using incredibly tight and high cues for boosts because you're going to hear some weird stuff. They're good for cutting. If you hear like a whistle tone or something that's really bugging your ear, I would suggest that when we're boosting, we probably want to stay on the lower side of our cue settings. And if we're cutting, we can look to increase our cue depending on how much surgical removal the frequency spectrum requires. One of the dangers of digital tools is we can use our eyes and rely on our eyes more than our ears to mix. So if you wanted to really kind of work on this, what I would suggest is shutting your eyes and sometimes even starting with a high pass and rolling up until you start hearing the sound thin out, or you start cutting things that you feel are now changing the sound source in a way that isn't conducive for the tone that you're going for.